The Auburn Tigers are in it. They're in the final two for elite quarterback Landon Duckworth. Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We're dapping it up with the Darrell Dapprich, Montgomery radio legend himself, hanging out with us on the show. Today, we'll talk about a few things regarding Auburn recruiting. Big official visit weekend coming up, and an unofficial visit that's worth paying attention to. We got a decommitment to talk about, but let's start things off with Landon Duckworth, the very talented, elite quarterback. I thought he was going to Ole Miss. I thought he was headed to be Lane Kiffin's next quarterback. News breaks earlier in the week, Darrell. It's down to two, but it's Auburn and South Carolina, where he was previously committed to. I think this is awesome news for Hugh Freeze and the Tigers.
Very positive news, very positive trend. I saw a couple of things 2 weeks ago, a Fong bomb that he was going to South Carolina. That's kind of changed a little bit to where Auburn's back in it. We saw pictures of him with Deuce Knight. I just think that the more leverage that gets made where it's not a slam dunk and Auburn gets in the top two and you get time to keep recruiting this kid and to keep selling the program, the better off it is for Auburn.
The interesting thing with this, because, it does seem like, it's going to be the case with most recruits, and it's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it as if it's a bad thing. Some people will take it that way, but it's a quarterback. It's a high-profile quarterback. To act like money is not an aspect of this, I think would be silly and irresponsible. South Carolina, this is a little surprising to me, but they're shelling it out. They have no issue competing with, being competitive when it comes to NIL. Not gonna lie, didn't see that coming. Hats off to them. We've heard, and I think you and I've talked about this, both on and off the show, about how there is a Deuce Knight tax when it comes to Auburn recruiting these quarterbacks. And so, add that to the list of, things that kind of stood in the way of Auburn, truly competing for Landon Duckworth. But, it seems like Auburn has a better chance of landing his services now than anybody.
The Deuce Knight factor is real. And if it's a kid that, I get the whole money thing. I get money can absolutely remedy a lot of these situations. But if you look at Lenora Sellers probably playing this year, is he ready the next year and eligible to go to the NFL draft? I don't know. Deuce Knight would have to play next year if Jackson Arnold leaves. And then it would be 2 years before a Duckworth could come in and even compete for the job. So is he willing to do that where he feels like he might be able to do that at South Carolina a year earlier? That's a factor. That Deuce Knight tax that you describe is exactly right. And it's a good way of putting it because it just depends. Some kids, Zach, don't care. They're not bothered by sitting a year and waiting.
Right. And they also have the mindset of I don't care who else is there. I'm going to beat them, which you want, right?
What you want.
But I know I've seen a lot of people talk about South Carolina and Lenora Sellers, but they've got Aaron Noland behind them as well. So I don't know. If you come to Auburn, and some of this also depends on what happens with Jackson Arnold. If Jackson Arnold stays and you lose Deuce, then what happens? So I don't know. There's so many different things that can happen with how fluid quarterback situations are in college football right now. I almost wonder if that's not even worth looking at. Once again, 6 of 10, top 10 quarterbacks in each class transfer. They don't start at the school that they commit to. So, how much of this does it actually even really matter? I don't know. There's a bunch of different ways to look at it, but it just goes to show once again that even when some people count Auburn out of some of these recruitments, and I'll put myself in that boat, I thought we had lost on Landon Duckworth. Something happens. Landon Duckworth puts out an announcement with Hayes Fawcett, says, no, I'm down to 2, and Auburn is one of them.
The Burgess thing got me thinking, got me curious. When Burgess committed elsewhere, when he looked like he was a slam dunk to Auburn, I started to think maybe there's something to this that Auburn has confidence in another quarterback who obviously we've talked about this. We did a compare and contrast between the two on a show, and obviously Duckworth being the higher rated quarterback. That's the first factor. The second factor is, I thought it was interesting that Brian, when you had Brian on your show, that your recruiting guy, and he talked about how he knows and feels pretty confident that people are negatively recruiting against Auburn, that if that's happening, how do you still get in the top 2 for a kid like this? So something's there that's kind of switched in the last week or two. And I would just caution people to be very, very patient. This is where the 4, 5, 6, 7 games in, if Auburn is showing life and they're winning football games, it's the great equalizer. If you can get in the top 2 right now, if the negative recruiting is going on, then I think that gets alleviated. You start winning on the field. So there's a lot to be, I think, encouraged by this. Let's put it that way.
I've also always been in the boat that if you decommit somewhere, you are less likely to go back to them. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It happens, sure. But the fact of the matter is that he was committed to South Carolina. He could have done all of this while still being committed to South Carolina. I mean, we see guys that are committed to Auburn. Auburn hosts guys who are committed all over the place. That's not unusual, especially for quarterbacks. So he's not 100% sold, or he wouldn't have decommitted from the get-go. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm not saying that he can't pick South Carolina. I just feel like we see it more times than not that when you decommit from somewhere and they're in the final 2 or 3, you don't usually see the kid pick the school that he originally decommitted from.
Yeah, that's why South Carolina is kind of the exception here, because remember the defensive back or the athlete from down in Americus, Georgia, that was committed to South Carolina, decommitted and committed to Auburn, and then went back to South Carolina. And I can't remember his name. It was 2 years ago.
Solomon.
Solomon, yes. He was committed to South Carolina.
I don't remember his first name. He was a really good player.
Yes. And then committed to Auburn, then went back to South Carolina and did that graphic like, oh, this time I'm all in, guys. Welcome me back.
Right.
So, but you're right. It's rare. It's very, very rare that happens. And I don't know. I mean, I'm in show me mode right now too. I'm not like I was last year, where I just felt like confident about every rumor or every trending up crystal ball. I want to see how these things kind of play out. But I am pleasantly surprised that when he announced his top 2, Auburn was in it, and that he's planning on going back for another visit on campus.
Yeah. It was Jalewis Solomon. What's his name?
Yes.
Is his name.
Yes.
So, yeah, no, super versatile player. Really, really wanted him. Auburn had a player decommit. We kind of saw it coming. Let's discuss its potential impact in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. How many times have we checked our account and said, oh my goodness, there's less in here. I spent more on whatever than I thought, whether it's meal delivery, whether it's, planning a vacation, whether it could be anything. It could be anything. Buying extra stuff around the house to entertain the kids for summer. I don't know, but Darrell, we've all been there. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. They can help you out and turn, it's not just a financial app, it's a financial command center, because it brings everything together. It can provide you insights, all-in-one convenience, and also easy collaboration. If you want to track your finances with a significant other or a family member, whatever, you can do all that. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Former Auburn linebacker commit JaMichael Garrett, JMike, announced yesterday that he is pulling his commitment. He is no longer committed to the Auburn Tigers. Mentioned this literally in a show yesterday, I believe, talking about like, hey, this is probably going to happen. I'd be surprised if he ended up in Auburn's class when it's all said and done. I didn't realize the timing would be that close. But JMike no longer a part of Auburn's 2026 class, Darrell.
A lot of the times when this happens, it sounds so much like, oh, that's okay, it's mutual, or sounds like, revisionist history. But we really have heard for a month or so that this was probably going to happen.
Yeah.
And that this was very much a mutual thing, and that there are other targets out there that Auburn will probably pursue, that maybe perhaps that they're in. Not to say, I mean, JMike's a very good player, but it just looks like from a fit standpoint, no one is surprised by this. Let's put it that way. And it's heard rumblings about it for quite some time. So it's kind of come to pass now. And I'm not surprised in the least bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So does that mean, Atkinson, the linebacker, I think he goes to Grayson. Is he the next, focal point in
Anthony
all of
Davis,
this?
is that the Anthony Davis? Is that
Anthony
another?
Davis. Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, so Auburn has been in it with several of these top linebackers. And they have Shadarius Tootle. He's one of several guys coming on campus this weekend, who's also a linebacker committed to Auburn. There's been talks of him flipping. In fact, Wilt Fong put in a Fong bomb for him to flip to Georgia. And so we'll see if Auburn can kind of shore that up this weekend.
That's the plan, is what we've heard. They want to shut down rumors, shut down speculation, shut down his recruitment. And this weekend could be the thing that absolutely seals it. And that's what they're looking to do.
Yeah, I think so. All right, before we talk about the rest of the official visits this weekend, let's talk about an unofficial visit that will happen with Xavier Tiller, one of my favorite tight ends in this class, Langston Hughes kid. 4-star, I believe, across the board. 6'4", 210 plus pounds, super athletic. It's a tight end that, I mean, he can kind of do whatever. He can help you in the blocking game, and he also is athletic enough to send him downfield. He's exactly what you want in a tight end prospect. Formerly committed to Texas A&M. He's been trending all over the place depending on who you talk to and who he's talked to over the last several months. Took an official visit to Auburn last weekend, returning this weekend for an unofficial visit. You can say whatever you want in interviews. Track the visits. And this is very, very interesting to me.
Oh, it's very telling when you have an official visit and you probably like it so much that you can't wait to get back the next weekend on an unofficial. And that's the thing. I mean, Auburn needs to get that prototypical receiving tight end that can make catches downfield. And I know they feel like they have some of those in the portal transfer in recruiting class, but you've got to keep stacking those. You don't want to have to always go to the portal to get one that you can't develop. And in Hugh Freeze's offense, that receiving tight end has been something that's been a staple for years. And I want to see Auburn recruit one, and definitely a higher ranked, 4-star in that area. Yep. This would be a great get. And I'm excited that he's coming back 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, me too. And then just another note, I think Justin Hokanson reported this. Tristan Keys, the 5-star. I mean, most people have him as the top receiver. I've got C.D. Morgan as my top receiver, but Tristan Keys is elite. There's no question about it. 5-star committed to LSU. Was supposed to visit earlier this week. Sounds like he was a last-minute no-show, which is a bummer. Obviously a bummer, but you got to think that was a long shot to begin with. So Tristan Keys did not visit earlier this week. The Tigers have some guys visiting this weekend, though, and it could be crucial to hold on to some of these guys and, of course, add some of these guys to the class for the 2026 cycle. All that and more next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. If you're watching on YouTube, so sorry. Like half of the internet is down the day that we record this. And so we're just doing it any way we possibly can. Sorry, it doesn't look good. Maybe I'm able to fix it more in editing than I realized, but so sorry. Thank you for hanging out with us regardless. And hopefully on audio, nothing's different. So I love C.D. Morgan's game. Obviously, he's coming in, and he's not the only 5-star coming in. But I want to start with, and I've said this all week, Darrell, and I think you'll agree. And if you don't agree, I don't think you'll push back a ton. But now with 3 guys who are committed to Auburn currently visiting this weekend, Devin Carter and Denarius Gray, 2 receivers, and then Shadarius Tootle, who we mentioned not that long ago, the linebacker. I would love for the other guys visiting, C.D. Morgan, Braylon Womack, and Xavier Crowell. I would love for all of them to be part of Auburn's class. No question. But to me, I think you've got to hold on to these guys that are currently committed and do whatever you can to lead them to shut down their recruitment.
I do, because I think it's twofold. Number one, you solidify their stance, but then also I think they become recruiters for you. They become internal guys that help draw other to your program. Once they lock it down, and once they're 100% committed, and you understand that there is no doubt where they're going, and they've closed their recruitment, then they can start drawing and influencing and recruiting their peers that
Yes.
are on visits. And so that's why I think it's very important. And it's a twofold type, ends justifying the means. And so this weekend's big. I think that Auburn had a little bit of a blip, a little bit of a lull. This weekend could go a long way in getting some momentum back.
Yeah.
Start hearing Sunday night, Monday morning of some kids that maybe commit.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously, the three guys, Devin Carter, Jadarius Tootle, Denarius Gray, do whatever you can to make those guys happy and content. Xavier Crowell, one of the top. I mean, he would probably be the top back if he hadn't have reclassified. He's a year younger than the rest of these guys. So I think that hurts you in the rankings more than it honestly should. That's just my opinion on it, but that's why he's a little bit lower than he normally would be. As far as upside and natural ability and all that, he's at the top of every list. He should be. He should be higher. I'd be surprised if Auburn ended up with a Xavier Crowell. I also think the running back situation in this class is fascinating now that you add Eric Perry. And then obviously, they've got, oh my goodness, this is the second time this week I've forgotten his name. The Auburn High kid.
Oh, Mapson, Omar Mapson.
Omar. I love his game. Why can't I remember his name? Unbelievable. But with him being the same age as these kids, I wonder, would they take three running backs who are the same age? Like, if Crowell wants to come, you're not telling him no. If Derek Cooper wants to come, you're not telling him no. If Jae Lamar wants to come, you're not telling him no. It's just this class when it comes to running backs and Auburn's rolling it all has become pretty interesting.
Mapson might be the same age, but he's in this class that's coming up now. So that does give him an extra year of collegiate football experience as opposed to Perry. The Lamar kid, Jae Lamar is another name we've heard.
Right.
I think Cooper and Crowell are a little bit pie in the sky, to be honest. I just think that I would love to get either one of them.
Yeah.
Again, those are kids that narrative could change if Auburn goes out and wins 9 or 10 games this year. So what you're trying to do right now is get the hay in the barn. And I think Auburn's got their sights set on, obviously another running back, but you've got Alvin, you've got Mapson, you got Darrell Robinson, who's got 2 years of eligibility left. Zach, the transfer from UConn. I mean, he was a true freshman last year.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got at least 2. So your running back room's okay as far as future forecast.
Yeah.
But you still want to stack those. And so obviously Auburn's going to take one more running back. Who will it be? I don't know.
Do you think they will take one more running back?
I do. I don't think Perry will be the only running back that Auburn gets in this class.
I think unless it's a home run, one of these guys, I think it'll just be Perry. That is my prediction.
So let's look. You know that Austin will be gone after next year. Is there a chance that after Jeremiah Cobb plays his third year that he comes back? I don't know. Depends on what kind of year he has. So that would just leave you with Robinson, Mapson, and Henderson. So you add one. Everybody's talking about you want to have at least 4 or 5 SEC running backs in the room. I think unless you go in the portal, and you and I have talked about that, you don't have to sign one out of high school. You could still go to the portal and get one.
Well, you've got 5 on scholarship this year: Damari Austin, Jeremiah Cobb, Darrell Robinson, Alvin Henderson, Omar Mapson. The only guy you're for sure losing is Damari, and you're bringing one in.
True, but don't you feel like, I mean, this will be Cobb's third year? Like if
I've said that every offseason that he was leaving, so I don't know. He must like it here.
I love it. I want him to stay. I want him to stay all 4. I've been a huge fan of his, but if he breaks out, has a breakout campaign this year, who's to say that he couldn't try to make himself eligible for the draft if he has the kind of year?
I think in that situation though, Darrell, so then let's assume Cobb leaves then for whatever reason, whether it's portal or, hey, hopefully he's good enough to go pro. That'd be awesome. You'd have Darrell Robinson as a junior, and then Alvin and Omar would either be redshirt freshmen or true sophomores, right? I think in that situation with you have Eric Perry then, who would be a true freshman his first year, I think it would make more sense to get a vet via the portal than just settle on a guy to help like be at the end of the depth chart in that year's running back room. Unless you swing for the fence, because if you get one of those guys, and I agree with you. I think Jae Lamar is the most likely of those three.
And
I agree with you.
I think he's a take. I think Auburn takes him right now if he.
Well, I think I think they take any of those three.
Right.
But if it's that next tier down, I'm not so sure at that point.
Good point. And that
just because of the makeup of the roster, like I think it makes more sense to get an older guy then instead of having like 4 guys that are all like either true freshmen or redshirt freshmen.
And if Cobb stays, which I hope he has a great year,
then you probably don't need to get anybody.
You don't need to get anybody. The best case scenario is Cobb and Alston and Darrell Robinson have great years, and Cobb and Robinson come back, and then you bring the other 2 in, and you're good to go. I mean, you have Henderson and Mabson, then you bring Perry in, and you're back to 5 in the running back room, and that would be the perfect scenario.
Yep. Okay, as far as other guys visiting this weekend, I mean, I've talked every show this week about C.D. Morgan. I don't think Auburn's getting C.D. Morgan at this point, but if you're Auburn, you have to do everything you possibly can to put yourself in a position to where when he commits and then eventually signs in December, you got to be able to say, I did everything that I could.
It'll be interesting. This is a funny little side story. I was at a Bass Pro Shop a month ago checking out, and one of his relatives that recognized me from our show talked about how much they liked the show and talked about how much he loved Auburn and that he was going to Auburn. We'll see. I said, I'm going to call you. I'm going to hold you to that, and he better. So we'll see. Kind of funny. He's just a little funny. You never know. People always say stuff like that and they get excited. And a lot of times these kids say whatever they want people to hear. And if those particular family members follow Auburn, so that could be the case. But it's he's definitely a want. I mean, just elite, and he's a program maker, and it would be very, very nice to get him on this team.
I think he's a need. I mean, I think as far as what you're trying to do in state and what your messaging was last year was, to get a top guy. Like, it doesn't seem like you're going to get Tank, who's the other, he's number 1 in some, and CD is number 1 in the state in some. For what you want to do and what your mission has been, I think Cedarian Morgan is a need for Hugh Freeze and this staff.
The fallback plan I've heard too. I've heard the name, the Marquise Daniel. Is that how you say it? Marquez Daniel?
I think you got to take him too from Tuskegee. Yeah. He was on an official this past weekend. I mean, you need both of those guys.
So, going along with the Cam Coleman, Malcolm Simmons, and Sam Turner coming back, and then Auburn has shown the ability, Zach, finally over the last 2 years to go get reliable, instant impact receivers in the portal with KLS and Eric Singleton. They swung and missed Hugh's first year. There's no doubt, but they've got that settled, and they've identified good guys in the portal. So maybe you go get another veteran too. But I agree. I think both would be absolutely necessary in this class.
Yeah. But still a receiver class of Devin Carter, Denarius Gray, Marquez Daniel. I mean, that's nothing to be upset about for sure. But C.D. Morgan just being 30 minutes from you. We'll see what happens. Darrell Dapprich, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Follow me on X, DAP6410, Instagram, Darrell Dapp, Wednesdays and Fridays with you on Locked on Auburn, Sunday, 8 p.m. live on the Barn.
Yes, please like the video. Please subscribe. And once again, thank you for your patience. Sorry the video today looks like this. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked on Auburn.